What I took away the most is like, I can do anything, Will. If I can figure this out with no experience, nobody to ask, and nothing, I feel like I can do anything.
Your career is so varied. You went to Full Sail.
Mm-hmm.
You spent some time in Nashville doing some things. You went to your hometown in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
You're here now.
Yes.
What's your role here? Let's start with that first.
Okay. I like to look at my position as the person that kind of comes in and makes everything a little more easier for everyone, just kind of fits the pieces together, but to make sure that we are taking care of business. So there is no task above or below me that I don't view that I need to just make sure it gets taken care of.
I love it. TCB.
Yeah. TCB.
Take care of business.
Yeah, but it feels good, at the end of the day when you look back and you look at all the things you got accomplished, it feels really good.
And we're in front of your beautiful cafe and bar.
Yeah, greenhouse cafe and bar.
Do you miss it a little bit?
A little bit, yeah, I do. But when you take space away from something, you always romanticize it.
Sure.
You remember the good parts, not the bad.
Which you should.
Which you should, yeah. I do. It's very bittersweet, but it was time to let go.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's absolutely incredible. What got you here, though?
Okay.
Like, what was the start to this? Was it at Full Sail? Were you ever, like, when you were at Full Sail?
Mm-hmm. I went online. So I was the first to graduate with their online program.
Oh, cool.
So yes, it's kind of a long story. It's a very deep emotional story, which I'm happy to share.
Yeah,
so I'll start from square one. Many years ago, when I was in college, so I went to college twice. So I got my AV degree and then I got my business degree.
Yeah.
And when I was in production school, I decided to go vegetarian, more for the environment. I learned about factory farming.
Yeah.
I was a poor college kid. I couldn't afford the free range good meat.
Right.
So I was like, I'm just going to give it up.
Sure.
And I was in the small town of Lebanon, Ohio, my hometown, commuting back and forth to school, and there was no place I could eat. You could get a salad, hold the chicken, hold the bacon, and you're just left with iceberg lettuce. So
it was the worst kind of thing.
The worst.
Yeah.
It was so boring. I was always hungry, and I grew up cooking with my grandma a lot. When I went vegetarian, there weren't a lot of places to eat. I started making everything from scratch, and then I really started finding a passion for cooking. So I really enjoyed that, and I'm like, one day I want to open my own cafe. One day I'm going to get through college. I'm going to get into the music industry. I'm going to become this great, successful producer, do all these things. I wanted to do it all, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to retire in my 50s and I'm going to start my own cafe, like a vegan cafe near the beach.
That sounds
very
glorious.
Really. Yeah.
You still have time.
Yeah, right. I know. I mean, that dream never left, right? So I go to Nashville and I start hosting supper club with friends. Work full time. I went to school full time. I'd come home and I was making ravioli from scratch.
Wow.
I just really loved it. Things have changed a little bit since then just because of the restaurant, but I still find it as, a way to kind of decompress and just release everything
There's
at the
some
end of the
zen
day.
in it.
Yeah, for sure. And I love chopping things and, sauteing and all of that. So I was in Nashville for about 10 years. And then one day I get the call from my mom at work that my brother had been killed in a workplace accident. A piece of equipment fell on him. It was instant. It was terrible. Really just turned our life upside down.
Sorry.
The first week of processing that, I just felt like I needed to go home. But why, how? I was exactly where I wanted to be, doing exactly what I wanted to do. I loved my life. I wouldn't have changed anything about it at that time.
And 10 years of building it.
Yeah, for sure. And I just kept having this nagging feeling that I needed to go home, but I didn't know how to make that next step. I had a dream one night that my sister-in-law was pregnant, my brother's wife, and I've always wanted to be an aunt. I don't have children of my own. I wanted to be an aunt to Andrew's kids since we were little. And then I didn't think that was possible anymore. He's gone, and the first couple of days I remember that hitting, I'm never going to be an aunt, I woke up that morning and it felt so real. And I just immediately looked at Brad and I'm like, I had a dream that Brittany is pregnant. And it felt very real. And I want you to know that if this comes true, I'm taking it as my sign to go home.
Wow.
And the next morning, Brittany called me and told me she was pregnant.
No
Yes,
way.
She did. Yes, she did.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
so I had already told all these people that. I think I told some people at the office that.
Wow.
So I didn't think about it. I was this is the sign I asked for.
Sure.
I'm going to take it.
I love that.
So I reached out to the cafe that was for sale, and we signed a contract to move there and buy it in 6 months. So I went down, signed a contract. We got everything in order. It was going to be a 6-month process. We have a contract. We've paid a substantial deposit. We've been in communication with them pretty much every day for 6 months about next steps. I've already like sold my house. It's in a pod. We accepted an offer. I'm training somebody to take my job. And 3 days before, they send an email and say they don't want to sell to us anymore. They heard that we wanted to change the name, and they don't want to sell to us anymore.
Oh my goodness.
So here I am, still in a fog of grief, just like, I just gave up everything for this. Like, what do I do now?
How did that feel?
Horrible, terrifying. It felt like my world was upside down, and over the last couple of months, it started to come upright again and get my feet under me, and then
kind of
just
some
like
purpose.
Yeah, finding a purpose, making the best of a situation. You know, I'm going to go home. I'm trying to have something to look forward to, and it felt horrible. It was so scary, and you know, I felt like I had just given up everything. That I was not only like, did I work for it? I got really lucky to be in the positions that I was in. I stepped away from that. You don't get back to that, you know?
So you hadn't owned a company before?
Never owned a company.
Not owned a restaurant before?
Never owned a restaurant.
Could make some kick-ass ravioli, though.
For my friends, yeah. I make really good food for like 6 people.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
How hard could it be, right?
No experience whatsoever. I mean, I jumped off of a mountain and like landed on my feet somehow.
Wow.
So Brad, and I'll never forget this, this made me love him forever. Not that I wouldn't, but he was like, since I've known you, you've talked about this. Like, you're extremely passionate about it. Every time we got to eat, you're like, oh, I like this, or I would do this, or I'm going to remember this for my one-day cafe. I mean, for like 10 years, it was my one-day cafe. And he said, I believe in you. We have the money. We have some money to get started. He was able to keep his job and work remotely. So he still works from home from the same company today.
That's cool.
It was like 6 years ago.
What a gift to have someone that believes in you.
I know.
Like knows you warts and all.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can do this.
Yeah. And honestly, that gave me the confidence I needed, because I'm like, okay, other people are telling me I can do it. He believes in me. He's willing to like put us at a financial risk, you know, for this.
Was it a gift to have ignorance and not know what you were about to face?
I think so.
You know, was that good?
It was good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had I known, I would have done everything entirely different. If I ever do it again, I would do it entirely different.
Oh, you just described my whole life.
But we don't know. We can only learn things by doing them. Right? That's how I feel. So
you learn and do and adapt, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I didn't really have anybody to ask, but I'm like, you know, we have the internet, we have books, but it was really just like doing it and figuring it out that made me learn. We went a block up from that original cafe. It was called Flavors Eatery, that we went to buy. I can say that now because they're no longer a thing, and we're out of our non-disparagement.
Is it Flavors with a Z?
No, it might as well have been.
Okay, good.
In the end, that worked out, because that would have been a way more expensive and harder road to go down versus just starting from scratch. Like taking a business that was established with its customers and just, you know, changing it, I think would have been a little harder. And it's nice to know, like, this was mine. I built it from nothing. This wasn't anybody else's.
That's cool. There's a probably in the moment it might not have felt that great, but there's some special pride that you can say, like, you know, every beam, you know, I know intimately.
Yeah, right. Every screw.
Oh my
Every little streak of paint I had to repaint 7 times.
Yeah.
But
so instead of having a turnkey restaurant with pre-existing customers, a wait staff, all that sort of thing,
money,
a menu, income, a menu that you probably would have changed significantly, but still at least, you know, something going. Then you're like, you have to source, you have to like find a shell, gut it, redo it, get all the appliances, create the menu, blah, blah.
A to Z. You know, Brad and I at that moment, we were like, we know one day, hopefully in like no time flat, but in a year, we're going to look back and be very grateful for the way things worked out. This is happening for a reason, right?
Of course.
But I did know that the only way I felt comfortable enough to take that leap doing something I didn't know that was very expensive was in Lebanon, in my small town. I knew it like the back of my hand. I have so many friends and family. Like, it's a great community. People are really supportive. And I knew that if just my friends and family came to support us alone, we could probably make it work. There wasn't anything like quick and easy and affordable for people to eat healthy and make good choices.
And that's hard to be healthy in quick and easy and affordable.
Right, yeah. And I knew that was something missing. And I was like, it has to be in Lebanon. If I'm going to do this, it has to be in Lebanon, Ohio.
That's amazing. So it's kind of a mission for you. It wasn't just like, I want to, it wasn't like, this is my selfish dream. I've always wanted this. I'm going to, it was, this community needs it.
Yeah, exactly. There was a need and I saw it and I wanted to fill it. And of course, I literally am sitting on these benches every day because I didn't have anything to do yet. I'm like, I left my job. I have just uprooted my life and I'm like trying to figure out next steps. So I went to every bench downtown and would have coffee and sit for hours just trying to see the patterns because I had been gone for 10 years.
So what were you looking for on that bench? Because that's fascinating, doing market research just by physically kind of living in that space a little bit, right? Like, what were you looking for? What were the things that you were observing?
So I wanted to see what type of people were out and about. Were they more business? Was it, tourism? Was it shopping? Which was definitely a mix of all. Yeah, so I was tallying like male, female, old, young, coffee in hand, like suit, briefcase, things like that. I don't know if it was right or wrong, but I was like, this is what I know to do right now.
It's data.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have too much data.
It was empowering to know, who we were going to serve.
All right, then you're like, okay, we're 6 months old, we're super excited, then COVID hits.
Yes.
Did you do what most restaurants did and started doing like takeout and kind of, how'd you pivot?
Yeah, so by the time we finally opened, been renovating it for a year. So we thought it would take a couple months when we started and we got into the walls, and then it ended up taking an entire year. So there was a lot of hype built around it. Like, when's this place going to open?
Right.
So by the time we opened, we had a line out the door, which was incredible.
That's
that
awesome.
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Things were going really good. And I remember feeling stressed out. Like, this place is too small. I didn't set myself up for growth, and I'm really kicking myself in the foot. And we were fast casual. You order at the counter, get a number, sit down. So that really worked in our favor for COVID. But I'm like, we've outgrown our space and we're 6 months old. We're going to outgrow in a year. Like,
that's a great problem.
It's a great problem.
That's a problem.
It is a problem. And I'm like, I'm going to have to get real creative here and figure some things out. We had kind of talked about taking the space upstairs, like way too early to start thinking about growth. Yeah. But it was on my mind. And then COVID hit and I was so glad we were small. So we stayed takeout only for 16 months.
Wow.
Yeah. After being 6 months old.
Oof.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
and we
amazing.
grew. We grew through that
Really?
somehow. Yeah. And by the time we opened our doors, it was just like, it just never slowed from there.
That's so cool.
I'm trying to please a lot of people, I'm trying to please the meat and potato people, and I'm trying to please the vegans. And at first, I wanted my cafe to be a vegan cafe just because I love making vegan food, and that's like what I know. And then when I realized it was going to be in Lebanon, I'm like, I don't want this to be about diets. I want it to be good, healthy, fresh food accessible for all. Like, I want anybody that comes in here to feel welcome and not overwhelmed. Yeah. And then I realized pretty quickly, like, we were doing a real service to people. There was a market there that nobody knew to capture.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like every town needs a restaurant like that, because there's so many places. And Greenville's fortunate to have a few, like Farm Fresh Fast and some others, but there's so many places that don't have, nice fresh ingredients, and you can tell after you eat it. It doesn't have to be vegan, but it's just, if it's fresh, you can taste the difference. And then the aftermath is not a food coma.
Yes.
And all that, you feel energized, and it's actually doing its work in your body.
It's fuel. Yeah. And I did get that a lot. Even till the end, I'm sure the current owner does. And it felt so good. I felt accomplished when people were like, I love eating lunch here because I don't feel bogged down at the end. Like, I can go back to work and I'm productive. And that's what I tell Brad. Like, I'm here to change. I'm here to change the town. I'm here to change the community. And
that's cool.
And I feel like we did, and now we have multiple fast casual kind of setups. We have a lot more locally sourced food. We have a really high-end coffee shop now. It's just getting bigger and better. But he was like, I feel like you were a really big essential piece to kicking that all off here. And I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. I mean, I guess in a way I was the first, but it's good to hear, and I know I had some part in it, and that's
absolutely.
Just so cool.
You have to have groundbreakers. You have to have people who go into there, and then other people can say, like, okay, they survived, they didn't get eaten alive. I can do it too.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
true.
That does play a major part. So
it's like a domino.
Yeah,
effect.
it really is. Yeah. When you think about the lowest time during that whole experience, what kept you going? What was the thing that when you hit that rock bottom that, did you just say TCB and just, put in your big girl pants and keep going? Like, what was
pretty
it?
much.
Yeah.
I think I didn't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You just got to get through it. And I was alongside of many restaurants who didn't make it in the end, and I would hear their stories and like, I'm behind on rent, or I've got this. And I'm like, I'm not though. I'm able to cover rent. I had incredible people on my team, and I would remind myself of that. I leaned on them really hard, and you're only as good as your people, right?
Yeah, so true.
And I would just remind myself how lucky I was to be there. And it, if I lost it all, like, I would have a very different feeling.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't have a choice. Like, I would just remind myself, you just gotta get through it.
It's so motivational whenever you have no other option. Right? If a bear's chasing you, you're not like stopping to think like whether you're a runner or not.
Exactly. You're gonna run. It just comes natural.
It's just like that way. Where's the bear?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to run the
other
opposite
way. Exactly. So I just knew we had to keep moving forward no matter what.
The attitude of gratefulness is so important, though. Like, just to be able to stop and look and go, okay, I'm grateful for this. And that's part of my exercise every morning. Is I sit out in my truck and I look at the building and say, thank you, God, I have this. This is where I need to be. This is the gift.
Yeah.
And then you have to do that because it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you got a big old LED wall, you got a beautiful cafe and all that. Like, everything turns into a job at some point or another, and there's always down times.
Yep.
And so it's the attitude that is
it's not
so
always
important.
Glorious.
So it sounds like it was worth it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Honestly, in the end, what I took away the most is like, I can do anything, Will. If I can figure this out with no experience, nobody to ask, and nothing, I feel like I can do anything.
Yeah.
And that's pretty empowering.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're definitely a badass. You can do it. And that's the thing that we were talking about even earlier. I'm used to selling big ticket items, a few of them. You're selling a croissant or whatever, at a time, a cup of coffee at a time, a drink at a time. It's just like, it's a completely different way of doing the math to pay the bills.
Right. And we're all getting to the same thing in the end.
Right.
But you got to sell a lot more cups of coffee.
Right. How do you think this whole journey has shaped you as a person?
To be honest, it broke me. I mourned my career a lot in the beginning. As grateful as I was, and I would tell myself this, and I'd remind myself, when I was in the music industry, I'm like, one day I want to do this, and here I am. I feel like if I wouldn't have done that, I would have really regretted missing out to go home and grieve with my family.
Yeah.
But it was hard. It was hard once I got into it to look back and realize everything I let go.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get back to it. This is going to be my life forever. Restaurants, which is cool. This is great. But do I want to own and operate restaurants for the rest of my life? And I'm like, no, I'm here. I'm ready.
Yeah, you're worth the wait. Anybody that can turn a roached out shell of a building into this, you just don't get in their way. That's just like say, go TCB. When it comes down to it, what's the thing that you're really good at? Like, what's the thing that top 5% of the world, you're just like so good at it? What is it?
I would say that I'm really good at building people up. I love to build people up. I don't know why. It's rewarding to me. I like to see the best in people. I think I'm better than most people, if I had to say. For whatever reason, I just really like believing in people.
What's the big takeaway from this episode? What do you want to think that people should walk away from?
Oh my God.
Knowing and thinking about?
If you have an idea or a dream you're trying to chase, I want you to go for it. What's the worst that can happen?
Right.
You did it. Look at this place, Will. Like, that's a huge leap.
We did it.
Yeah. The worst that can happen is you fail.
Yeah, I do an exercise sometimes where I'm like, it's usually at 2 a.m. when these things happen. Yeah, so it's and then what is the kind of exercise I do. So if like something bad happens and you think, okay, and then what? All right, so like if I we lose all of our clients, okay, and then what? Well, we'll go find more, but, and then no one wants to ever work with us again. All right, and then what? And it's just like you go through. And when you do get to the very end of and then what? You're still alive. You're still like, everything's okay. Yeah. It's just you gotta start again.
I love that.
So
I love that. Yeah. I'm gonna keep that in my mind.
Take it.
You just keep going.
Right.
Yeah, you put one foot in front of the other and you figure it out.
Just TCB.
TCB.